All right, guys, welcome back. Let's jump into the next translation for stage 30 of Cambridge Latin. So, Polyspaston, Polyspaston 1. Postridie, Tereus Salvium ad arium suam duxit ut Polyspaston ei ostentaret. Okay, so first things first, we know that, let me first say, notice that we're not really following along with the color coding over here. We've started it, but still under construction, like most of the slides have been. So just ignore that for now. Eventually these slides will be completed. So postridie, so that's adverbial right here, but we notice that it's with the long E endings, it's a form of the ablative. So on the next day, Tereus, it's our subject. Duxit, main verb of the main clause, perfect tense verb. Led, direct object. Salvius, so accused of ad arium suam, so that prepositional phrase, accused of motion towards his, and then an area, this is where we get the word area from, usually means courtyard, but in this case we're using it as a builder's yard. Right? That's how the back of Cambridge glosses it. So let's put it, and let me jump in, I forgot about this ut clause. So the purpose of him leading Salvius to his building yard is to ostentare. This is where we get the word ostentatious from. It means to show. We've got an imperfect subjunctive right there. So in order to show the polyspaston, remember it's a Greek word, but it's a crane. In order to show the crane, a dative of indirect object or remoter object. So in order to show the crane to him. So let's put it all together. On the next day, Tereus led Salvius to his building yard in order to show the crane to him. Next sentence, ibi, so we've got an adverb right there, there, so in the courtyard, there. Gletus is the subject right there. Gletus was sitting. And we've got two things. We've got an adjective here, otiosus, which is means lazy or idle. And we've got this little appositional phrase right here saying what he is. So he is the master of the workers, the craftsman. Magister, nominative, and then fabrorum, genitive, plural. Otiosus is, even though it's an adjective that's modifying gletus, probably the best way to translate this is as an adverb. So not lazy gletus, the master of the workers, was sitting there, but rather Gletus was sitting, or Gletus, the master of the workers, was sitting there lazily. Let's translate it as lazily. And then we're beginning this next sentence right here with a qui. So the qui is the subject of this whole sentence. Who, cum, now we would be expecting this is either a temporal clause or it's going to have an ablative. There's no ablative here, and we see this pluperfect subjunctive verb, so it has to be a temporal clause. Who, when he had seen, conspexit. So when he had seen, con plus specto, when he had seen the dominum, accused of direct object, the master, apropinquatem. So this is a participle modifying master. So when he had seen the master approaching, celeriter, we've got our adverb there, quickly, sorexit, rose up, got up. Fabrosque, so this que is eclitic. That means that it's attached to the back of the word. It's attached to the back of the word, fabros. But what comes before que is actually going with the verb that happens after the que. So fabros is not the direct object of sorexit, as we might be tempted to think. Now, it also wouldn't make sense to say that he rose the workers, but he quickly got up, as in he himself got up, and he usit, so he, perfect tense verb from eubeo, ordered. And who did he order? He ordered the fabros to laborare. That's to say, he ordered the workers to labor. And how did he do it? How did he want them to labor? Diligentius, so comparative adjective right there, more diligently. Also, good thing to note, so UCIT is introducing this more or less indirect command with this infinitive, and Fabros is the accusative subject of that infinitive right there. So it's not he ordered the workers more diligently. He ordered the workers to work more diligently. The workers are doing the work. So let's put that all together. Who, when he had seen the master approaching, got up quickly and ordered the workers to work more diligently. Okay, next sentence. Tota aria, the whole building yard, so these are both the subject, or this is the subject and this is the adjective modified, tota is the adjective. The whole building yard, erat, was plena. Now, erat, the imperfect form sum, is taking this predicate adjective right here, also in the nominative. The whole building yard was full. Full or filled, probably filled is the better way to describe it, because we have this ablative, fourth declension from strepitus. It is an ablative by the noise, and then we've got this genitive right here of laboring, right? So putting it all together, the whole building yard was filled with the sound of laboring. So next sentence right here, columnae, so columns right here. This is not a genitive, this is a nominative plural. We can also tell that because the verb sekabantur is a plural. It's a plural passive voice imperfect tense verb. So columns were being cut. X, this is an ablative separation, from marmore pretiosimo, from precious marble, right? Or from not just precious, but the most precious or the most expensive marble. It's a superlative adjective modifying marmore, right? Okay, so putting it all together, columns were being cut from the most expensive marble. Lateres saxaqua in ariam portabantur. So lateres, so we've got bricks and stone were being carried. Another passive voice, imperfect verb. So bricks and stone were being carried, and then in ariam, into the building yard. Notice that the in is taking an accusative here, into. Next sentence, well, sort of, it's joined by that semicolon right here. Ingentes marmoris massae in plaustra ponebantur. So the ingentes and the massae are the two, well, they're both nominative plural. So ingentes is modified massae. This is the adjective, this is the noun. And notice that we've got a genitive right in between the two of them. So we know, since it's sandwiched there, that it has to be modifying this massae. So huge blocks or masses, and then of marble, ponebantur, were being placed in plaustra, in a cart. All right, this is in plus ablative right there, locational. Next sentence, Tereus, cum fabros laborare occupatos vidicet. So we know that Tereus is the subject of the verb. It's going to be down here. And then we've got cum. Since it's marked off by this comma, we have the sense that it's probably not going to be a prepositional phrase. It's probably going to be a subordinated adverbial temporal clause. And we can confirm that because we don't see, well, we do see an ablative right there, but it's not next to the cum, and we have a pluperfect subjunctive verb. So it definitely has to be a temporal clause. So when he, vidicet, had seen the fabros, direct object, the workers, and then this is a participle modifying the fabros, occupatos, occupied, and then a instrumental ablative describing how they're being occupied labore, by work or with labor. He then, main verb of this sentence, duxit, perfect tense verb, he led. So Tereus led. Who did he lead? Direct object, Salvius. Ad alium arii partem. So just like we've seen before, we've got the alium modifying the partem. Partem is the noun, and then arii is the genitive going in between. Just like we saw with the ingentes marmoris masai. So this whole thing is a prepositional phrase to another part of the building yard. Another part of the building yard. Cool. So let's put it all together. Tereus, when he had seen the workers busy with labor, led Salvius to another part of the building yard. Okay, next sentence. Ibi, there, stabat was standing, Ingens Polyspaston, a huge, this is the adjective, crane. Quod a fabris paratum erat. So what we have here is it's subordinated. This is a relative clause which is modifying Polyspaston, which is a neuter. It's a neuter verb. Sorry, not neuter verb. It's a neuter noun in Greek, and so it is still neuter in Latin, which is why this relative clause, this qui, is not because, but it's which, and it's neuter to go with Polyspaston, which is modifying. Which, and then here's we have this paratum erat. This is our first perfect passive tense verb, this compound verb form that we're working on in this stage that is in this passage, which had been prepared or was prepared, and since it's a passive tense verb, we're taking this ablative of agent by the workers. All right, so let's put it all together. There, a huge crane was standing, which had been prepared by the workers. And then next sentence, in tignos polyspati. So this right here is a prepositional phrase. So locatival ablative in tignos. So in the beam or on the beam. Polyspati, so genitive of the crane. Sedes, a seat. This is another word for a seat. We've got a couple now. Sela and sedes. So a seat. Fixa erat, so another perfect passive tense verb. A seat was fixed or had been fixed, had been attached. So let's put it all together. A seat had been attached on the beam of the crane. That's the best way to translate that naturally in English. So a seat had been attached onto the beam of the crane. Tum, then, Tereus ad Salvium, so this is a participial phrase, then Tereus, having turned towards Salvius, right? Inquit said, mi salvi. So this is a vocative right here. My dear Salvius. You can't just say my Salvius in English. It sounds weird to say my dear Salvius, or even my Salvius in modern English. But just pretend like you're from the 1800s in British. My dear Salvius. There we go. My dear Salvius, since he's directly addressing him. And then we have this none, this interrogative question word that is expecting a yes answer. Surely, mirabile est Polyspaston. So mirabile is wondrous, marvelous. Marvelous is est the crane, Polyspaston. It sounds a little bit weird in English, so we'll translate that as surely the crane is marvelous. Okay. Next word, hawk. So this is this thing right here, this crane. And this sentence is a little bit difficult to translate because we've got talum and qualum, and we really haven't seen those much before. So let's just worry about the hawk first and the main verb, and I think the talum and qualum will come along later. But those are translated as usually such and as. But this hoc, potest, is able, right? And then with potior, we're expecting a prolative infinitive, right? And that's the pribere right there. And pribere means to provide, And then with that infinitive, we have tibi, this is a dative advantage for you. And then we have tal, such a prospectum. So a view, orbis, genitive, of the city. Now we can naturally fill in with that qualum as pauci. So few, umquam, have ever viderant seen from video. So let's put it all together. I know that that's a little bit tricky in terms of some of the grammar, but we'll just soldier on. So this is able to provide you with such a view of the city as few have ever seen. Placet ne tibi. So placet, we've mentioned this a few times, it's one of those impersonal construction verbs. It doesn't, properly speaking, take a subject. So it says, it is pleasing. Ne is enclitic and indirect. It suggests that it's a question. It indicates that it's a question. So is it pleasing, tibi, to you? I'll probably better translate this as, does this please you? Or do you like this? If you're translating as, do you like this? It's idiomatic, and I maybe suggest put a little star or a little asterisk there and explain why you've kind of gone off the rails with that more idiomatic translation. But most people shouldn't have an issue with that, because it's awkward to say, is it pleasing to you? Or does it please unto you? So Salvius, ubi sedem in tigno fixam vidit paluit. So we've got we've got a main verb right here, paluit, and then we've got this subordinate clause of ubi. Ubi plus a indicative, as opposed to cum with subjunctive. So Salvius, ubi, when, not where, when, vidit, perfect tense verb, he saw. What did he see? The direct object, the sedem, and then participle fixam, having been attached, in tigno, on the beam. So main verb of the sentence, paluit, grew pale. So let's put it all together. Salvius, when he saw the seat attached to the beam, grew pale. Perfect. All right. Next sentence, said, but quia. So quia, quia means because. We've mostly seen quod mean because, but quia is really, really common, very common. Said quia, because fabri, this is the nominative plural subject of this little subordinated clause. So because the workers, habebant, imperfect tense verb right there, because the workers were having, and then what were they having? Their oculos, accused of direct object, their eyes, and then participial phrase right there, defixos, fixed, and then in eum, upon him. So notice that we see this quite a bit in constructions, that that the participial, or the participle that is modifying a noun, will have whatever goes with the participle kind of lodged in between the participle and the noun. So in eum goes with that, and we know because it's sandwiched in there. Then let's jump forward. Then, because he was having but because the workers had their eyes fixed upon him. Notice I'm taking a little bit of liberty in translating that as had as opposed to were having. I'm not reflecting that it's imperfect because it flows better in English, because they had their eyes fixed upon him. Con dissimulans timorum. So this is a participial phrase modifying well, actually it's not modifying Salvius. Salvius isn't there, so it's acting as the subject of this main verb. It is hiding, what is he hiding? Accused of direct object of that verbal adjective, dissimulans, hiding his fear. Main verb, concedit, sat down. So he sat down, perfect tense, in sedem, into the seat. So let's put it all together. But because the workers had their eyes fixed upon him, hiding his fear, he sat down in the seat. Perfect. Next sentence. We're almost there, guys. Juxta eum Tereus quoque concedit. So juxta is, here it's a preposition next to him. Juxta takes a accusative. Tereus is the subject. Tereus quoque, adverb, also concedit, sat down. So putting it all together, Tereus also sat down next to him. Tum, then, Fabris imperavit. So imperavit, he ordered, perfect tense verb. And then Fabris, we know that impero takes a dative. So then he ordered the workers, ut funes, qui ad tignum ad ligati erant, sumus viribus traherant. So a little bit long. So ut will jump to the main verb, and that is to traherant. It's an imperfect subjunctive. So this ut is an indirect command. He ordered the workers to drag, to pull. What are they pulling? The funes, which is a rope. The ropes, to drag the ropes. Qui, this is a relative clause. Qui clause modifying the funes. Qui, which, erant ad ligati. So this is another perfect passive tense verb, that compound form, which had been attached ad tignum to the beam. And then how are they dragging it? We've got this little combination of two ablatives of instrument with sumis viribus. Now, literally, sumis, which means with the highest, with the utmost, and then viribus comes from vires. It means manliness. Now, remember that this is a highly gendered and highly misogynistic language. But so we're probably not going to translate it with utmost manliness. We'll translate it with all their strength. Translate it that way. I think it's a little bit nicer way to translate it. So let's put it all together. So then he ordered the workers to pull the ropes which had been attached to the beam with all their strength. Next sentence. Dende, then, tignum. So tignum is the nominative subject. It's neuter. So therefore, it doesn't change its form between accusative and nominative. Then the beam, tolebatur, was being raised. So imperfect passive voice, was being raised, lente, adverb, slowly, ad caelum, to the sky. Let's put it all together. Then the beam was being raised slowly to the sky. Salvius, pavore paene confectus. So this is a participial phrase modifying the subject, Salvius. So confectus means, it comes from conficio. It can mean to be overcome, overwhelmed, worn out, completed, something like that. Here it's overcome. It's not exhausted. It sounds strange to say having been exhausted by fear, pavore. So it's having been overcome, pavore, by fear. Paine, adverb, nearly. Haerebat, ad sedem clausis oculas. So haereo, it means to cling. So he was clinging, ad sedem, to the seat. And then how was he doing it? This instrumental ablative, with closed eyes. With the closed eyes. Good. Accusative plural, not accusative, ablative plurals right there. So let's put it all together. Salvius, having been overcome nearly by fear, was clinging to the seat with closed eyes. Tandem, at last. Oculos, aperuit. At last, perfect tense verb, he opened, direct object, his eyes. I have to put in his there if you want it to flow. So at last he opened his eyes. Okay, So we got through that translation. Hopefully that was fairly easy. The grammar is getting more exciting for me. I like grammar. It's a little bit more difficult. If you have any questions about it, or if there's anything that I didn't cover, just please let me know, and I will talk to you later.